Going back to your pivots from where you were working on an indie game and switching to this, I have a question that is very hard to answer and that I think every entrepreneur struggles with. How do you know the difference between a distraction and a worthwhile pivot? How do you know when the resistance is winning and you're allowing yourself to go down a rabbit hole so you don't have to do the hard work versus having that light bulb idea that's going to actually turn into something that could be more equally useful to the project that you're sort of kind of avoiding or pivoting away from?
So I'm gonna lay out the personal goal for even having a side project at all, and that's that I wanted to create something. I wanted like a creative release valve for in between other stuff that I was doing. Um, After leaving the games industry, I I was super burnt out, and I needed to recover. So my
And just to clarify, you were in a leadership position. So not only were you working on the game, you were responsible for the game, correct?
oh, very much, yes.
Yeah. And as creative director was your
It is
end
the
title.
official title, but I was also essentially the executive producer there toward the end. And yeah, there's a long story, a 7-year story behind that. But it's yeah, eventually between doing the work, managing all the people, and continuing to keep developing what is now actually as of 2 days ago, that game is now 11 years old. So it is, a very old title with a strong community. But yeah, so between that, I was kind of done. You needed a break to recover. So my recovery activities were to do something new, just like create stuff for myself where I could take all of the energy and ideas that I had and funnel them into something that makes me happy. So to that end, it it's already a success. Like I've done it. I'm there. But to push it further, uh, understanding whether or not it's just to get back to your question, a distraction or not, I think is it's a little bit difficult to. I think it'd be monetary. Like if I continued down the path of building my own video game as an independent developer, I would totally make more money than if I'm building a tabletop RPG from scratch. And the reasons for it are very simple. What I was creating is or am currently creating with Distal is something that already has a very competitive, very well known, like saturated market. And there are also a lot of other people who are creating their own tabletop role playing games at the same time, people who have more clout in the industry and have way more experience and communities that have kind of built to support that endeavor. I don't have any of that. I'm starting from scratch. So I would say out the gate, it is not a good idea what I am doing. It is reckless. Please do not do this. Uh, but at the same time, I am comforted knowing that I have, like, I know where I'm going to end up if I fail. So creating that, or rather understanding where your safety net is super helpful to uh, set aside doubts about what you should be doing. Because sometimes it's worth just taking a chance and seeing, where you end up. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
And it is so important as an entrepreneur to make sure that you're paying attention to the numbers and the reality, especially when you're on the creative side or the heart-based side. You can get really sucked into all the good that you're doing and the connections that you're making. But if on the back end, it doesn't actually turn into money, then you have to do something. You can't have a business if you don't have a revenue because you have to be able to pay for that business. So I think what you touched on there is really important for all entrepreneurs to stay aware of, is the fact that you cannot ignore the bank account. And that's actually something Joe Polish, who's a marketer and just amazing networker. He's written several books, and he also has a large community called the Genius Network, which is a mastermind where you have to write a $25,000 check just to get in the door for a year. You have to be able to just write the check right then and there to be able to participate. But he talks about very specifically for entrepreneurs, one of the things that you always do as the leader is handle the money. And that means being real about the money. So he was talking of it from the perspective of having someone steal $2 million from him within his business because he trusted them and stopped paying attention. But on the smaller scale, it's making sure that the numbers line up. And I think that safety net thing that you talked about is a really valuable place to start from. So when you decided to make this transition from a day job to taking the leap again, you had a cushion. You know exactly how long you can go. And then you also know that you have rapport within the game industry to where you can move back into that if you need to. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, like I'm in some entrepreneurial subreddits, and it's all these people being like, should I invest my life savings in this thing? And it's like, no, or maybe, but what's your backup plan? What are you going to do if it doesn't work out? How much time do you have before the clock runs out? So I think that balance, especially for creatives, is super important to stay aware of.